a while ago, I went to the DFO end of financial year sale. Got myself some Chucky Tails, you know what they are. But, a couple of sets, which is good. All right. So, how many of you were here last week?
Hey.
Right. How many of you were not? Great. So, we've started a new series called The Family of Origin. Well, it's not necessarily a new series. It's a new series for this year. But we did this series a few years ago, and this was something that I've built over 30 years of what does it mean to grow up in a certain type of environment, and how does that play out? How does that? What are some of the things that? And I've just noticed the bushes on the tree there. That's amazing. It looks just outstanding. That's outstanding. It's a good job. It's growing the other way. Well done. And so this is about to give you a little snapshot. Is certain things in our lives, ways that we think, the ways that we feel, the ways that we act, come from certain environments, and sometimes we can find ourselves thinking, why am I constantly like this? Why does this constantly affect me? Why am I always that guy or that girl? Why is it hard for friendships? Why do I always feel this certain way? Why am I so needy, whatever it might be? And as I studied this whole idea of the family of origin and realised for me, the family that I grew up in was a broken, alcoholic, violent one. And so there were certain gaps. So I often describe my life as if you're heading down a road, and there's the dotted lines in the middle of the road, that was kind of like my life. Every now and again there was bits that hit the ground, and then there was a bit that was missing, and a bit that hit the ground, and a bit missing. And so I'm not criticising my parents, but I can, because I am one, and but no disrespect to them. My father is no longer with us, and I'm glad of that, and if you knew my journey you'd understand why in that space. But he was a good man at some point to someone, but not to me or my brother, or my mum. So the challenge with this whole series is, how can I begin to change things in my life to make things for my future, the relationships, the friendships, the way that I think, feel and do, change. And we talked about it being, this is my pal, so he's just making sure I've got it right, and we're describing this as like if you look at your life like a tree, over the coming weeks you're going to see this tree take more formation as we go through the topics. Now, when I shared this a few years back, I don't even know how many years it was, must have been 5 or 6 years maybe, I don't know. But was it 4 years, was it? 4 years ago? Cool. This time round, a bunch of our guys on our leadership team are going to help share the series, which is quite exciting and scary at the same time. So tonight I'd like to share a couple of more things with you that may help you deal with either yourself, how you relate within your family unit. And if you've joined us online, thank you for the comments last week. There was a bunch of parents that contacted me last week out of this saying, could I do a night just for parents? And the answer is no. Love you. But maybe. We'll see what comes out of that. But really you can go back through, I think our YouTube channel. Tyler, is that right? Yeah. You can go back through our YouTube channel, and if you want to have a look at the FOO series back there in its entirety, go back there and watch that, or just stay tuned. And the reason we split this series up over a few weeks is because there's so much to deal with in any moment, and so tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about a couple of things, in particular shame and guilt. How many of you have ever felt guilty in your life? Yeah? Right, and you put your hands up at home too, or you can nudge the person next to you and say, you make me feel so guilty. Do that to the person. Yeah, I saw them kick one another right here in the front. You do that to me all the time, I'm so not your best friend, most best friend, whatever it is. Anyway, and so tonight I want to talk to you about shame and guilt. Now for me, and I don't like putting out other people's stories, so I use a lot of my own, and for me, I was manipulated in my childhood and in my adolescence and even into my adulthood about feeling bad if I didn't do certain things for certain family members or for even people, even friends. They could make me feel really bad, and like, I won't be your friend if you don't, and or you're kicked out of the house if you don't, clean your room or something. Well, my room was like, it's like a bomb gone off in there, I'm sure there was dead bodies in there, under all those clothes, and well, that's what it smelt like anyway, being a boy room. But so the challenge for us is, for us growing up, is that this is not a series for you to go home and go, mum and dad are so, or mum is, or dad is, or whatever. This is about you understanding how you respond in that environment, because I've dealt with hundreds of young people who have grown up in some of the most beautiful family environments and yet still have an attitude that sucks balls, and so sucks. And so so the challenge is, how can that happen? How can you, have you ever bumped into someone's house like that, where you bump in and you think, oh, their parents are so awesome, why are you such a something, I had a word, but I thought I'd not use it because we're live. So the challenge is for us is that, and sometimes I would find some of my friends would just like create these attitudes because they thought that was like the cool thing to do. They would just have this really sucky attitude, and you go, why? You're just so blessed in your home. You just got such great parents, great loving environment, and I was jealous of it because I didn't have it. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe that's the deal. Because you don't have it, you crave it, and then because you crave it, it's like it's never going to happen, blah, blah, blah. But then I had the opportunity to create it. So I had my own kids, and I had an opportunity to say, I'm going to do something different. And this particular series changed my life when I was 21 years old, because I heard someone speak about behaviours as a young person growing up, and how I saw my life and saw myself in that, and shame and guilt. So basically the two things, shame and guilt. If you do a crime, if you go to court, none of you would have gone to court yet. I had been in court a couple of times, and when I was younger, I was innocent for things, and when you stand there, the magistrate and the prosecutors will say what the evidence is, blah. They say what it is, and you have to plead guilty or not guilty. And if you were guilty or found guilty of the crime that you had done, there was a consequence for that. Now, the challenge for us in our lives is that if we do something wrong, if you lie to somebody, if you tell somebody secrets to somebody else, you have that funny feeling, don't you? Well, hopefully you do. That makes you feel like, oh, orcs, oh. And when that person comes up to you and you go, oh, hello, and you hug them and you say, it's so good to see you, and you know that you've betrayed them to a bunch of your other friends because you wanted to be friends with them more than be solid with the friend you're with. But none of you did that, have ever done that, or had that happen to you. Maybe that was just me. Maybe I just did that. You've had it happen to you, yeah? I'm sure you have. Because it's common for human nature for us to want to be accepted and valued and belong somewhere, and then we can't be happy with what we've got. We always want it the other side. I think Cassie said earlier about something about the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. What was the...
they always say the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, but...
it's greener where you water it.
The grass is greener where you water it.
Where you water it. And we all joked because of Cassie's hair colour right tonight, so she's been watering her head real well. So the challenge for us guys is quite simply, if you grow up and you do something wrong, there's guilt attached to that. Now, in the court system, you have a certain time frame in which you are guilty, and then you are free, right? If I speed and lose my licence, there's a certain amount of time that you get to not drive, and then you get it back. You get the privilege of driving again, right? So you're guilty for a season, and then you're free again. Now, the problem with shame is shame tells you that you're a bad person, not that you just did a bad thing. So guilt is that you did a bad thing, suffer the consequence, whatever that is. If you betrayed someone, if you spoke bad about someone, if you ragged them or criticised them or whatever it is, that's guilt. That's kind of going away or working its way inside you. Shame says, I must be a bad person, so why would anybody want to be friends with me? That's shame. Now, if you live out of that space, that's what they call a shame-based life. That means every decision you make or every way that you see your life is always got the negative. We had a gal come here a little while ago, and when I spoke to her, everything she said, she says, everything in my life is negative. Everything is bad. I don't enjoy any of my life. And no matter how many of us sat around her and tried to encourage her and love her and say to her, stop, you know, she said, nah, doesn't matter what you say, my life is bad. I'm not going to go for a show of hands on that one, all right, of like how you see that. But I asked her later, why did she say that? She said, because it gets me attention. So the more I could say it, the more negative I could be, the more wah I could tell, the more kind of poor me sort of stuff I could tell, more people would pay attention to her. Now the challenge with that is it's actually exhausting, isn't it? When you're around someone like that, I'm okay about someone telling me that they're having a sad day, sad month, sad year, sad life. But at some point I say get a life and move over it. That's what Bridge Builders is all about. Build a bridge, get over it, you know, move through it, work on it. Don't work around it, work on it, work through it, you know. And that's the shortest route is through it, not around it. It's more painful to go through stuff, but get through it. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this bloke called Maslow. And there was this, is there a whitey board thing? Can you just whip that one out of there for me, Bond? Thanks. This might help you at home. This is, they call this big word, it's called the hierarchy of needs, and basically it's just 5 things that talks about what your lowest needs are as a human. Some of you that have done youth work have done Maslow's theories before. This is the hierarchy of needs, and I'm not going to spell out all that he does. He's the right person who've been doing this sort of stuff, but that's great, nice jammies. And but bottom line is, excuse me, Calvin, I'm sorry I'm disturbing. Yeah. Okay. Hey? Moping. Let me do it the right way around, otherwise it doesn't make sense. So there's your, let's just do this. It's not physio as in, you know, get your body right. This is your physiological needs. Who can take a guess at, not youth workers, what your physiological needs are? Go.
Probably a hug.
A hug? No, not quite.
A good mental health?
Physiological. Did you all have dinner tonight? Yeah? Not yet. Wait for supper. Yeah? So that might be food, you know, it might be things like, everybody hold your breath. Just hold your breath. You at home, hold your breath.
I need that.
You need that. You need breath?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I die.
Physiological need. So try holding your breath for the rest of your life. Your life will end quickly. You know, so, or you'll pass out, or whatever. That's your physiological needs. The stuff you need to survive, right? Food, shelter, sleep, water, you know, clothing. For some of us, reproduction, Ellie. You know, so, and me. Proved it, you know, so, then you go up into this next level called safety. Right? What do you reckon that means? What do you reckon that need is? No youth workers responding. Pardon? It's a bit of a giveaway. Josh?
Like sort of things around you to keep you safe, house.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. So security. You know, so it could be security that you need. Personal security, that might be, you know, so something like a house, could be having a son that's a copper, you know, oh, funny story. Oh, I don't know if I can share it on camera. No, I can't. No, okay. Good, I've got the no. Employment is security for some people. Being employed gives them a sense of security, you know, that they've got their needs being met. Remember, this is about your needs being met, right? Your health. If you're healthy, yeah, it could be something like that. All right, the next level, change colours. This is the levels that start to, it's almost part of the Bridge Builders value statement.
Love and belonging.
Love and belonging, all right? So this is the 3rd level up. This is like, not going down, this is like the next level, right? when you find yourself in a sense of love and belonging, now, what does love and belonging mean to you for your needs? Friendship might be a giveaway, yeah?
Having a bunch of mates around you that support you when you're going through a tough time.
Mateship, absolutely it is. Yeah, mateship, friendship, yep. Yep.
Feeling like you belong in a place that is a little bit outside the comfort zone.
Yeah. So Becca talked about Bridge Builders being her place of belonging. You know, it's just that sense of connection. You know, that sense of real. Yep.
A sense of being important.
Yep. So.
Social interactions.
Yeah. So family is good with that. Intimacy. And that's not necessarily having sex, that's just intimacy, that next level. While that might be part of it, it's more about that sense of something, you know, I said the word sex or rooting, you know, so got a better response. So the reality is that intimacy is, into me I see, that's the Love Guru stuff, but anyway, the reality is love and belonging is high on the need scale, isn't it? Because the fundamental human needs, love, value, acceptance and belonging, they're the 4 fundamental human needs for us. But then we go into this next bit. This is so cool. Esteem. So what does self-esteem mean to you? Oh, I gave it half away. Yeah.
Basically like how you see yourself.
Yep.
And like if you're important to
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
or others.
So some people see themselves down here. It's all I need is food, water, place to stay, you know, and it's actually a lot more than that. And the healthier you get, the higher on the scale you go, right? It means you're okay about your self-esteem, yep? What else might be in the esteem? Nice yawn. Someone poked you in the face with that. Yep.
Having confidence in what you do.
Sure.
So when you go to work, you do something, you feel confident in the fact that it's actually going to work. And
yeah, so that sense of self-respect, you know, like you're confident in who you are. And that's not about blowing your own trumpet. That's just being okay that you've studied, that you've done the work, you know what you're doing, and you're okay to say, yeah, I got this, you know. Yeah.
Like avoid dwelling on things and live in the present.
Yep, absolutely. Now there's this next one up here, and this is kind of like the top of his. We'll leave this here. This is called self-actualization. Say that one. Self-actualization. Big word, and it quite simply means desire to become the most that one can be. That you're okay. So Beck said there before, when she was at school or started school, she felt like that, but now she's journeyed over 15, 16 years to realise that she's a powerful, intelligent, life-changing, world-changing person. So that's that self-actualisation, realising that you can actually make a difference, you know, and you want to, you actually desire to be that. You actually desire to want a better life, a healthier life, and you want to influence other people. And so there's this really cool thing. It's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is the fundamental human needs. And when I look at people and what they do, and when people say to me, I don't need people to hug me.
Yes.
You know, they did an experiment with chimpanzees many, many years ago. They just fed them and gave them their fundamental needs. And then there was another bunch of chimpanzees that they did the experiment with, where they brought them out of their cage every day and hugged them and played with them. The ones that they just met the needs of within a few months all died.
That's it.
And it was, you know, sad for the chimpanzees, of course, you know. And but the reality is, even the animal kingdom needs affection. Does Calvin need affection?
Yes.
Not right now. He's having a snooty moment, you know, right now. But you know, but I saw the gals walk in earlier, and he just sort of saw them, and he meanders over there and walks around them, and then sort of come on back. You know, it was very cute. So the challenge is quite simply this for us guys: is that you can look at this and go, "Oh, it's so exhausting." You know, all this stuff. But this is just a reality that if you're growing and if you want to be healthier and if you want to have a better fruit in your life, this is not a bad kind of thing to be working towards. If you think you only need this, or this bottom line, you just need to feel safe, need a job, need your physical needs met, you're lying to yourself, because this is studies over thousands of human needs. And to be honest, it's much more fulfilling at the top if you add the top 3 into your life too, you know, where you feel like you're really loved, where you feel like you belong somewhere, you've got good self-esteem. Again, in the Australian culture, when you get to self-actualisation and good self-esteem, people go, oh, so up himself, you know, so lardy, or she's so toffee, you know. But the reality is that you can just be okay. And you know what? All you can do is say, well, you're just lower on the graph. No, you probably don't say that. Yeah, you say that internally, all right? You know, you don't say that out loud. So here's the thing. There is a word that gets used like at the drop of a hat, and we use this word on a daily basis, and some of us aren't even aware that we use this word, and the manipulation that goes with it. I don't even like this rubber thing, you know, but and here's this word. I want you to sort of look at this word in the context of how you use it on a daily basis. Should. Everyone say, you should.
You should.
You probably say this 1,000 times in a day. This is what you should do.
Yeah.
Somebody comes to you and they say, you know what I reckon you should do. Or this is what you should do. Do you know what we should do?
Say no.
Do you use that a bit? Right, yeah. You know. Or, I should.
I should probably get up.
Now, I've said this before, my grandmother, you know, my mum used to say to me, you should go and visit your grandmother, you know. I go, oh God. You know, my grandmother was a Scottish little lady, she's about 4'3", I think, you know. But boy, oh boy, was she a fiery little Scotswoman. But she used to have this one pube out of her face, you know, that was like every time she kissed you, it got you. It didn't matter where you kissed her on your face, that hair got you, you know. So I had this fear of this facial hair. Well, not hair, but facial. What is a single hair?
Facial hair?
Just one hair. Just cute. Whatever, you know. So, and every time I would go and see my grandmother, now my grandmother was a manipulative, nasty little lady. And every time we went there, my brother and I would go there, she would get us to do stuff around the house, you know. And she'd say, if you love me, you should go out the back and mow my lawn. Well, I never gave her the finger. I was never brave enough. I was too little, you know. And she had a big machete. So so this word, guys, when somebody says to you, you should go out with him, you should hook up with that person, you should try, the word should is a manipulative word. And bottom line is, I looked up the definition of the word should, and it says this: someone else's beliefs or thoughts are being put onto you to manipulate you out of two things: shame and guilt. Now, I'm going to explain this bit. This was a life changer for me. Understanding these 3 words, how could 3 words change your life? Well, they did for me in the way that I guess my family interacted with me. You're part of this family, you should put the bins out. You're part of this family, you should clean up the dog turd in the backyard. You know, you're part of this family, you know, you should contribute more. You should. And so the problem with being the problem with being told that you should often felt like it was a chore or a heaviness that, oh, yeah, I'm not really pulling my weight. I'm not really doing the right thing. I'm not really doing. And so this word became just ingrained in my mind that every time I heard the word should, I felt guilty about something. And sometimes I didn't have to feel guilty about anything because I wasn't doing the wrong thing, and I didn't have to go and visit my grandmother. right? So that's the difference between, don't like that colour anymore. Oh, that one. Need and want. Now, need is important. If you live in a house and with parents or with siblings and you consume stuff, power, water, food, you need to contribute in some way. You need to clean, you need to do your room, you need to vacuum the house or wash the cars or clean up the dog turd, because that's about responsibility. You need to do that. I don't need to visit my grandmother. Well, I can't anymore, but you know, bad joke. But I don't need to visit my grandmother. What I want to do is, because I love my grandmother, I want to go and visit her. I want to go and hang out with my friends. I want to go to bridge builders. I want to go and ride a pony, whatever it is. But I don't need to do those things. So there's this difference in our lives that when someone says to you should, and you feel this shame or guilt out of something, then your life is being twisted. And the problem this happens over a long period of time where you feel so guilty about things in your entire life that I remember early on in my marriage where I would have this situation where I'd go to my in-laws' place and they used silence as a way of shoulding, you know. And so I would want to go to the movies or something like that, and I'd say to my wife, let's go out and watch this movie. But then she was my girlfriend, and they say, well, you need to ask parents. I'd say, oh, yeah, okay, you know. And I'd say, okay, well, what about if we go and see this movie? And they would look at the newspaper then and flick through and say, oh, we think you should go and see this one. Eh? I don't want to go and see that one. That one sounds crappy. I want to go and see this one. Yeah. Silence. How many of you use silence as a manipulation? I've done it, man. What's wrong with you? Nothing? You're good? Yeah, no, good. Silence is another way to manipulate people, to get them to do what you want. So, when you hear this word should, now please don't take the word should out of context. When your parents say, every time you hear the word, you go, should's a very manipulative statement.
My mum says that back now.
You get it back, your mum says it back to you now. So we taught this years ago, and should is a manipulative statement. So whenever someone would say that, it's like, oh, you should do that. Should's a very manipulative statement. Oh man, I just mean, come on! You know, so don't take it out of context. But what I'm saying is when somebody's trying to put it on you, you know, you should do this, step back a second and ask yourself a simple question.
Should I?
Why should I? Am I being manipulated at this point to do something or be someone that I don't want to be? Young people live with this shame and guilt idea their entire adolescent life. What friends think of you, what they say about you, to your face or behind your back. How you see yourself. I am ugly. No one likes me. I never do the right thing. I'm always in trouble. I'm always the loser. Shame and guilt based. If you're doing naughty things, it's probably because you're naughty and you like doing naughty things. So just own it, right? But if you're doing things because somebody else is manipulating you, then you have to weigh it up. When someone says, this is what we should do, step back a second and ask yourself the question, is this actually what you want to do? And why? I'm doing this because what Josh thinks of me is so important that I want him to still be my friend, so I better go along and do that. But imagine if I could say, yeah, nah, love you, for you, but I'm not doing that. I may lose a friendship in that space because no longer can that person manipulate who I am. That's what it means to be healthy in that top edge of Maslow's needs. Is that kind of, self of saying, yeah, nah. Everyone say to me, yeah, nah.
You know.
Yeah.
That's the phrase you're going to use from now on, yeah, nah. Now, I don't mean, yeah, nah, right? In that sense, when mum or dad asks you to put the bins out, yeah, nah. You should put the bins out.
That's me.
Yeah, nah. Guess what? You're not getting fed then. Ooh. Yeah. So, don't take this out of context in the sense of like, when anybody asks you to do something, it's like, yeah, nah. Yeah, right. That would be selfish, wouldn't it?
But what if you put out the bins and cook dinner, then you do get fed?
Then I'm coming to live at your house. So, the reality is, for some of us, we feel like we do a lot and other siblings do nothing. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Who feels like that? Who feels like it's unjust in your home? The entire room has their hand up right now. Yes. And the funny part is, there are 3 siblings here who all say they do more than the other ones. That is hilarious. That is just brilliant moment right there. So the reality, guys, is quite simply this, right? If you could get past this sense of feeling like you should do something in your adolescence, in your young adult years, of the things that are manipulating you to do things that you actually don't want to do, take a step back and ask yourself the question, is this actually who I am and is this what I want to do? And if it's not, grow a pair of muscles, to be able to stand up and the problem here, guys, is that you could lose a friendship over it. But the reality is the friendship is manipulating you out of shame and guilt anyway. It's a pretty lonely place it can be sometimes when we stand up for what we want and what we're okay about. But how many of you say that you should just do what you want because you're you, but you just do what you want as long as it's okay with me? That's really what we say in our friendship groups. Is if you wear a you're not wearing that, are you? Yeah? Oh no. No, you're not. We're not going out together like that. Imagine if you could just be okay about what people wear and not even care about what they wear because that's who they are. That's how amazing they are. Wouldn't that be a different reality for some of us? So, to wrap up here, I want to encourage you in this second week as we look at our family and the things that are rolling out in our family or in our own lives. This is, again, I want to keep this in context. This helped my family, my parenting as a dad. I share this with my boys. My boys would reflect stuff back to me. Now they're grown men, and they would say to me, wow, the stuff we wrestled with as growing up. And it was hard because, we had to wrestle some of this stuff. But if you've got friction in your home, maybe take a step back and think, am I being manipulated? Does this family operate out of shame and guilt all the time? Do I always feel not good enough in my home? If you feel not good enough, then say something. Step up and say, why do I always feel not good enough in this family? And if you're a parent and you're watching this video, affirm your kids. Speak well of them. Don't always take the piss out of them because that wears down a young person's soul of being able to cope with shame and guilt that's all around them. So for you, if sarcasm, if manipulation, if shame and guilt is the language of what you use in your daily basis, then begin to shift the way that happens for you, the way that you speak. Begin to not get caught up in just the same way that everybody relates. Be a standout person that says, I'm not gonna respond like that. I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm just gonna take a step back for a second. Yeah, nah. I'm gonna do me. Yeah, nah. I'm not gonna listen to all of that out there. And I'm not gonna feel ashamed. And I'm not gonna feel guilty of everything I do in my life. And remember, there are things you need to do as being a human, living in a family and doing stuff. There's responsibility. And there's the things you want to do. There's a difference, right? Sometimes we don't want to take the rubbish out, but because we make the rubbish, it's important for us to take responsibility and need to do it. All right? So, as you go into your packs this week, I want you to encourage you to begin to kind of, these next couple of weeks are going to be very much looking at some of the kind of the negative outline. And then in about week 4, I think the couple of gals are going to be sharing, it's going to shift the entire movement into ways to succeed and ways to win. I'm so excited. I met with a couple of them the other day and so excited about what they're going to share with us. So stay tuned with us for the 6 or 8 weeks or whatever we're doing here. But if you need more, you can go onto our Facebook page, have a look at the YouTube channel, the FOO series. If you just type in FOO, you'll see the FOO series and you can just listen to it over and over and over. But I want to encourage you, if you feel like you're being manipulated out of shame and guilt, then it's time to take a step back and say, you know what, I need to begin to shift this away. Namaste. Let's have a great night. Yeah? Good job.